Eyes go blind in a million sockets. This life's unkind and she's killing the softest. Can't sleep at night cause her voices are talking about something I wrote. I'm clutching my throat, gasping for air. I won't choke, I can't bleed, I can't die, I won't scream if I lose everything. Don't follow the flesh, approval, decrypt a bloody knuckle till I break out the sarcophagus. This terror.
The world is on fire, but everything is all okay. Oh my goodness.
On fire, underwater.
I mean, it's a little bit of everything. I was not sure if this review was going to happen. It has been a day, as poor Jesse has been privy to from my text messages. Be like, all right, we got this. Hey, so I'm going to be late. Oh my gosh, things are happening. I'm literally running into the door now. I'm like, what is happening?
We made it work. We're here. And, you know, I know you didn't have time to change, but I have to say again, I really do like that shirt. Looking sharp.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's one of my favorite shirts, and the material just makes it very comfy. But speaking of making things comfy, we are here to make y'all comfy with our wrestling reviews. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Biconic Review of Honor, otherwise known as the BROH, your weekly Ring of Honor review team. It is myself and Jesse once again back at it for this week. The dynamic duo is here, and we are here to bring a very interesting episode of Ring of Honor.
that's the word. It was, you know, when you're going through the intro, I'm starting thinking, it's like, we watch Ring of Honor, so you don't have to, and you can decide whether or not it's worth your time to go back and watch it. So I'd say, how long do we have on the show, Mike? I can't remember.
Oh my gosh, where are we?
It was an hour 40, something like that.
Like an hour and 45-ish, and I'm going to yell at this during the review later. 35 minutes of this was used to showcase a match that happened back in 2000.
We'll get there, so in the spirit of watching it so you don't have to, I'd say about 40 minutes of this was worth watching. But Mikey, let's finish our housekeeping, then we can jump right in.
Yes. So really quickly, if you want to follow our shenanigans across all the internets, you can follow us at BC WrestlePod across all of the social medias. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We have a YouTube. We have a Twitch. We have a somewhat of a Patreon where you can see grown men act like little children watching wrestling, which is fantastic. And you can also check out everything at Next Level, which houses our social medias, clips, where you can support us, our podcast networking. There's just a lot to go on. We're just basically a whole conglomeration of things, of anything and everything. So yeah, so also, last thing before we get into our review too, like I am going to start to do now, because outside of these weeklies, we also have the pay-per-views. So our schedule for October is pretty packed. Yes, it is booked better than most shows, apparently. Anyways, so Bad Blood review just happened earlier in the week. So literally this past Monday, me and Minnie took care of Bad Blood. Next Monday, you can expect me, Adolfo, Alice, and the other AEW crew to do AEW's Wrestle Dream, which is happening tomorrow evening. Andrew will be making a somewhat return this upcoming Thursday, as me and him will be covering GCW Fight Club, which is going to be fantastic. Then you can catch myself and hopefully Will on October 20th for a watch along of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's Forged in Excellence, which is former TNA owner Scott D'Amore's new promotion, bringing it back. There's a lot of Ring of Honor and TNA crossover. We have Giselle Shaw fighting Athena for the title. I think it's going to be a fantastic match. And then you can check out that review October 24th. Then we end the month with a big, with a couple of bangers, because Saturday, October 26th, the TNA crew will be doing a live watch along for TNA's Big 4 pay-per-view, Bound for Glory, with the review being the following evening on Sunday, October 27th, and rounding out the month of October on Monday, October 28th, will be the review for NXT's Halloween Havoc. Okay, now I can breathe.
And during that review, everyone's going to be dressed up, correct?
Yes, obviously. Exactly. Hang on, I'm going to put this man on blast. Hi, Will. You feel called out, as you should.
It wasn't a call out, it was a name drop. We're trying to increase our street cred here.
Right? Well, that's Jesse's take. I'm definitely calling you out any chance I get. No, I'm just kidding. Love you, Will. I love you. Anyways, so now that we got all that out of the way, Jesse, let us put our hands in. Let's do the code of honor. And let's get into this week's episode, because honestly, we started off with my favorite crew right now in ROH, where we have the entirety of MIT, which is Billy Starks and Lexi Nair. Lexi is talking to Billy about Athena's upcoming celebration, and then Athena jumps in to the scene with a pair of handcuffs. I was like, where are we going with this? So Athena tells Lexi, while, Billy also happens to be there by proxy, that she watched what happened last week, and Abaddon got too close to Lexi and Athena. So in order to protect themselves, the two of them are going to be handcuffed together in order to keep themselves safe from Abaddon, so they know where each other is at all times. But lo and behold, Billy Starks does not get a handcuff, Jesse. And so Billy's going to have to defend against Abaddon herself without, Lexi and Athena helping her. Billy is not having it, because she yells at them and then she leaves, as she should, honestly. I mean, we're getting there. That Billy face turn is coming very soon. Or who knows, she might be a heel and destroy Athena, which I'm also here for. But then we
Either way, like I said last week, hashtag Team Billy. Good for her. I'm glad she's standing up for herself. But Mikey, we're kind of burying the lead here, because the important question needs to be asked. Did they get Ja Rule?
That is the important people. I mean, Lexi's folks are talking to Ja Rule's peoples, and if Ja Rule makes a random appearance on ROH,
that would be like the Easter egg of all Easter eggs.
For reals. Oh my goodness, I would love that so much. But who knows? Ja Rule, if you're watching, if you're a wrestling fan, you hop on over to ROH because I think that'd be hilarious. But that wasn't the end of this segment because as Billy leaves, we also have somebody else come in who witnessed everything.
Ja Rule.
Who is not Ja Rule, but is actually pretty great themselves. Yeah. Lady Frost comes in and she basically laughs at, like, not actually, but like laughs at Athena's plight with everything going on with Billy. She's like, that was very entertaining. I'm kind of enjoying what I'm watching. And Athena, getting a little bit too big for her britches, is like, you know what? I could take you. And so I'm like, I will do whatever it takes. Like, I can beat you. And then Lady Frost is like, all right, I'll see you next week. And then Athena realizes at the end of this is like, oh snap, I think I just gave Lady Frost a proving ground match against me. Oops.
You know what? If this is how they build to the proving ground matches and not just have them randomly and sporadically pop up, I much prefer this, especially when it's, I only need 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes. It's like, it's I'm the champion, so I can beat you no matter what. I don't need 10 minutes for it. And the challenger, well, I only need the last 10 minutes. I don't need to beat you. And kind of having that power dynamic come in as they're just talking conversationally, to me, is much better than we're just announcing here's a proving ground match for the sake of having one.
And that is absolutely true.
It feels more real. It feels better based in reality.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, if this is how we get some of these proving ground matches, even though we do way too many as it is, I'm going to be honest, I'm okay with it because I'm like, hey, at least you're not just throwing it to have it. We're actually be like, all right, so we're going to get it next week. So Lady Frost versus Athena in a ROH Women's Championship proving ground match is what we are going to be getting.
Yeah, we'll talk about random proving ground matches a little bit later tonight.
Oh, we will absolutely do so. So then after this cold open, we get the regular rundown of the card from Ian and Caprice welcoming us to this week's ROH episode. And then we just jump straight into it because this was not advertised on the social medias until like an hour before the show. Mm-hmm. But we kick off ROH this week with a championship match, not a ROH championship match, but this is for the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship. So funny enough, this was an open challenge laid out by the New Japan Strong Openweight champion, Gabe Kidd. Listen, I am a big mark for Gabe Kidd. I know because I follow New Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Strong. He is absolutely out of his gourd in terms of his character, and I just love the chaos he brings. But he laid out a challenge, which was answered by our own ROH Anthony Henry, which had me excited. And of course, Gabe Kidd comes into the ring. The match is on. This is a pretty decent bout for like 9 to 10 minutes. Gabe Kidd takes a break to cut a promo while he's beating up Anthony Henry in the middle of it, which I know, Jesse, this is really your first iteration with Gabe Kidd. Trust me, he does this pretty much almost all his matches that he has. He's just a little shite.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I enjoyed it, but like this is different.
It is. So Anthony Henry tried, and then beef was on ringside with him, but ultimately Gabe Kidd wins with a snap pile driver for the 1-2-3, and your winner and still New Japan Strong Openweight champion is Gabe Kidd. Jesse, how do we feel about our opening bout and your first introduction to Gabe Kidd?
I will say this. I really liked the match. I thought it was a very strong opener. Not having any experience with Gabe Kidd, I was happy with his work rate. Anthony Henry seems to get better and better every time. I'm starting to buy into his character a little bit more. It's starting to flesh out a little bit. My frustration lies in why did we have this match on Ring of Honor? We had a non-Ring of Honor title defended on Ring of Honor when we can't even get the Ring of Honor titles defended on Ring of Honor.
Yeah. I mean, look. Again, I follow New Japan, and their matches and their champions are fantastic. We get some crossover in ROH and AEW, like we have Zack Sabre Jr., we had Robbie Eagles like a month or two ago fighting for the ROH TV Championship. Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols pop in ever so often. But it was really weird that we randomly had a New Japan Strong Championship match with no collection. They're just like, we're just going to throw it here.
Until like an hour before, too. Like, that's something they should have built to.
Honestly, for reals. You even could have had a pre-tape vignette last week, be like Gabe Kidd talking in his Courtney accent. just laying down the challenge and then have Anthony Henry come out this week to do it. But, ROH is doing its own thing. But I agree with you. I thought this was a really fun opener. I puzzled as to why we had a New Japan Strong match here on ROH. But you know what? I thought it was fantastic. And, I thought it was fun. But that definitely wasn't the same for what we got next, because then we get Brandon Cutler coming out to cut this promo, because after we get a little video package of this upcoming Saturday, tomorrow, for AEW Wrestle Dream, Brandon Cutler comes out to cut this promo on behalf of the Elite, and everyone should be thanking them for bringing Wrestle Dream. And then he lays out an open challenge, but more likely for anybody in the locker room, it's going to be more like a death wish. But the open challenge is answered by one and only Katsuyori Shibata, which then turns into a pretty much a one-sided squash match. Shibata destroys Cutler for the 1-2-3. Need I say more, Jesse?
No, I mean, yay, promoting Wrestle Dream. Yay, having Ring of Honor matches defended on Wrestle Dream's 0 hour. Let's move on from there. I don't want to bring up the same frustrations I do week after week. It's getting old.
That's very fair. Well, I mean, you bring up 0 hour for Wrestle Dream because we get, this backstage promo for Mr. Brian Cage, who will be fighting the ROH TV champion Atlantis Jr. for the title on 0 hours. So there are 2 ROH titles on Wrestle Dream, one on 0 hour, one on the main card. But Brian Cage brags about being a machine in every aspect, and he was programmed to be the best wrestler. And that starts with beating an Atlantis Jr. for the ROH World Television Championship at 0 hour tomorrow evening. I'm rooting for Brian Cage so hard.
So am I.
I want
nothing against Atlantis. It's just, I don't think the Ring of Honor style of wrestling is allowing him to thrive as well as he does in CMLL. And I feel like having Brian Cage, who's a known entity in Ring of Honor, and keep him there as a champion would really help.
Exactly. I'm rooting for Mr. Wolverine himself, aka Adolfo's baby daddy, to win this thing.
It's just this is a good match on paper. Atlantis Jr. and Brian Cage. Why couldn't we have built to this and have it be Death Before Dishonor?
Right. I mean, granted that we have to push it out until December, which is a very long time for Final Battle and whatnot.
It's really not, though, especially because we don't have much started.
That is also very fair. I mean, look, not saying that we need to, but if ROH wants to have 4 pay-per-views and 1 for each season of the year, I wouldn't be against it, because I feel like 4 is still pretty decent. Because between Death Before Dishonor and for Final Battle, that goes from July to December. So that's a big old gap.
Yeah, it is. That's what we're waiting in now.
So here's rooting for Brian Cage to win the title tomorrow evening, but we will see, and I will probably be disappointed like most times. But we move on from here, because then we get Miss Billy Starks in action in a squash match against local talent Ella Elizabeth. This does not go for very long. I got a chuckle out of the screaming spot at the top turnbuckle between these two. But ultimately, Billy does a swanton the Senton Atomico is what it's called, for the win. Billy Stark squash match. Love her. Hopefully she gets to fight actual opponents that don't involve squash matches. That's just me.
Happy to see her. Love watching her perform. Love her gear. Love her, pretty much everything about her. Fantastic person. Just let her go out and wrestle, not just do a squash or enhancement match. And this seemed like usually the women's squash matches are a little bit more like there's more teeth to them than the men's squash matches, but this wasn't that. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was like, oh, well, we better do something and just hurry up and, you got 2 minutes, do what you can do.
Yeah.
But it was really disappointing.
It definitely was, for sure. But speaking of things that disappointed me, I take that back, because I actually really enjoyed this next match. We have a tag team match where we have Shane Taylor Promotions, Lee Moriarty and Shane Taylor, taking on, one of our favorite tag teams here in ROH, which is the Infantry. I have to say, this was actually a pretty hard-hitting fight, more than I wasn't expecting it to, and I thought it was fantastic. The only downside to this match is I'm still mad that the Infantry are losing, but I had a little bit more hope once we got their spot a little bit later in the show. I'm like, I'm interested to see where this goes. But Lee Moriarty hits the O'Connor roll on Mr. Carly Bravo himself to pick up the win. Hey, we've said multiple things about Shane Taylor Promotions. We have said so many good things about the infantry, Jesse. But how did we feel about this tag team match?
I wasn't thrilled that they lost. The match itself was better than I expected to be. I'm in the minority here in our whole group. I know that I have very low expectations when it comes to Shane Taylor Promotions or Productions or whatever P word they're using this week. But the match delivered better than I expected it to. I wasn't thrilled that the infantry lost again, but I could say the same thing about Shane Taylor Promotions, always losing as well. But the fact that this kind of hits later in the night into a story, and if they develop something from that, I could be okay with it. So I'm going to kind of reserve my judgment on the outcome of the match to see what comes of it.
I will too. And we'll talk about the infantry a little bit later in the show because there's some interesting directions that we're going to go with them very soon here. I think so, at least. So after this match, we cut backstage. We try to get a promo from the Dark Order, which is Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. They begin by saying that it's time for them to get back into the trios division. However, ROH still has not learned their lesson because the Iron Savages and Jack Jameson come in to interrupt. And I'm looking at this by the end of this. So before I rip this to pieces, Iron Savages and Jack Jameson interrupt and basically challenge the Dark Order to a trios match in which Alex Reynolds accepts said challenge. So we're getting these two trios fighting against each other. ROH still has not learned its lesson from the last side. Who gave Jack Jameson the mic to talk? This was not a great promo. Jack Jameson was bad, Jesse. Bronson was not great either.
He's a great hype man when he has a script, when the Iron Sausages are coming out to the ring. You cannot go with him without a script or do an actual promo. It doesn't work.
No, the Iron Savages were not great in this promo, Jesse. Any of the three of them were not great.
No, and I feel like they're listless and they know it.
This really upsets me because the Iron Savages have just been relegated to, let's be honest, right now they've been relegated to jobbers, which is very unfortunate.
And I'm looking at the role that Dark Order, not to cut you off, but the same role Dark Order's been doing. So it's like, who's going to lose?
I know the way that we've been treating Dark Order and the Iron Sausages have been very upsetting because then I'm looking at, the Iron Savages worked great when they were a comedy trio and a comedy team. Why can't we give them the same treatment that, because they were also in ROH for a little bit, but you have two comedy teams a part of the AEW universe and MXM Collection and the Outrunners. How come we can't get the Iron Savages the same treatment? It's not that hard.
It's really not.
I want my boys.
They wanted to do something different with them because they didn't know what to do with them. They're trying this and it's not working. They need to go back. I came up with that plan about 6 weeks ago now. Send Jack Jameson gone and just let those two be themselves as they were before.
So again, I would like our ROH crew not to cross promote too much with AEW, but there's a Mr. Stokely Hathaway looking for a tag team to manage. Honestly, I would love to see Stokely manage the Iron Savages. I think that'd be fantastic. Despite his antics, we know Stokely can cut a promo. He's pretty good on the mic. And as we saw with his management of Chris Statlander, he works very well with the talent and puts them over as the manager. Fire Jack Jameson.
He doesn't call the attention to himself.
Exactly. And I feel like that's what Jack Jameson does, is that whether it's intentional or not, but he puts the attention on him, and Bronson and Boulder, in my opinion, suffer for it.
Yeah. I would not disagree with you there.
So again, I don't know all the logistics. I don't know the relationships that Bronson Boulder and Jack Jameson have with each other. They might be really cool friends and they might be close outside of this, but it needs to start translating into the character work because they are very listless. They know it. Dark Order knows that they are listless. They're over it. I think the match has potential to be fun, but again, storyline, and we're just having matches to have matches just because doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And this is what happens when you have champions with very little folks in your division to actually have any, plentiful feuds.
Like if they were feuding for a number one contender spot against, what is it, the Sons of Texas or something like that? Okay, I get that, but that wasn't even brought up.
Nope.
So I don't know. I want to ask you, because you have a little bit more of the institutional knowledge around this than I do. Was Jack Jameson part of the fold when they were Bear Country?
No, and that's the funny thing. Is that it was just Boulder and Bronson when they were Bear Country.
Iron Savages, I mean, they're as a team, they're not new, but as a refit as the Iron Savages, that's still relatively new. At least in the world of wrestling, it's only, 3 to 4 years old now.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, because Jack Jameson wasn't even a thing when they were Bear Country. And then when they got rebranded as the Iron Savages / Iron Sausages, Jack Jameson came in. And, when he was just the hype man, like I was here for it. But now that he's training to be a wrestler, it doesn't work as well because now he has to be a character and that doesn't fly with me. And I don't get what's going on with all of this. So it's a little weird for sure.
We'll have to see what comes of it, but I think right now we're spending a little too much time talking about it, so we should move on.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want to move on because then we get into the second big question mark that I have with all of this, because we do get a ROH Women's World Television Championship match in which Diamante is taking on Red Velvet. So on paper, I was excited because even though Diamante, as we said before, has been struggling on the mic, we actually have a feud going on for our second women's title. And the match itself, I thought, was a lot of fun. Of course, Diamante, we're used to seeing her more bruiser style of wrestling. Red Velvet has improved so much, and I've been loving her work since returning from injury. I'm still on the fence because Diamante is throwing everything at Red Velvet and it's still not working, which ultimately leads to Diamante attacking Red Velvet with the title out of rage, which causes a disqualification and Red Velvet retains the championship. So I've been thinking about this since I watched this match last night, and I've been still going back and forth, and I'm honestly still on the fence with this. So maybe you can help me talk through this because on the one hand, I'm not a big fan of DQ finishes like this, but on the other hand, because this is how Diamante's character works, and we've seen it, this is the first time we see her get blinded with red and rage over, having an opponent who is breaking out of everything. I'm still on the fence because I don't like DQ finishes, but it makes sense for Diamante and the character, which also potentially leads us to getting some sort of rematch and maybe having a crazier stipulation with this. I don't know, Jesse, how did you feel about the match and, how it ended with the DQ?
I didn't love the DQ finish myself. I'm never a huge fan of those. It's just like, it's not very satisfying. But my thought around it excuse me, I'm speaking in plural tonight. My thought around it is the fact that this can't be the blow off. Like it feels like the feud just started, so we can't have it blow off when it just started. So if they use this as a stepping stone to build and bridge into a second match and then a third match, which is like the big stipulation match, maybe have that at whatever the final battle. Okay. I can be okay with it then, but as of right now, I am firmly on the fence with this ending. Like, I didn't love it, but there's so much that they can build from it that I can be okay with it. I can accept it.
Right. I think I would be more okay with it if we see it continue and, it evolves into the next chapter of whatever we're doing with this title. But if this is how it ends,
So if they have a rematch and then somebody comes out to help Red without Red knowing, and then Red gets DQ'd, so Diamante gets the win. Now they're 1-1. Now we go to a big blow off that has some kind of stipulation to it, like a no DQ match.
Yes, I love it. Jesse, we're on that same wavelength. I totally would love to see that, my friend. Hell yes.
Now, the thing is, who would you have to kind of either help Red or hurt Diamante? Because I don't want to involve Queen back in this.
The only other person that has any connection to Diamante that could potentially hurt her, depending on how her recovery goes. The only other person would be Miss Layla Hirsch, like legit Layla Hirsch. But she had that blow-off match with Diamante, and she won that feud, so it doesn't make sense for her to come back and stick her nose back in Diamante's business.
I don't know how it would work out long-term, but we could also, and again, we're fantasy booking at this point, have Billy wants to get her title back, so she comes out after something bad happened with Athena and attacks Red and causes the DQ.
That is also.
And then, hey, now we got a triple threat no DQ match at Final Battle for the women's TV title, and I'm all over that.
Yes, let's do it. I'm here for it. But we're going to move on because we're going to talk about something that I was not here for because the crowd loved it. I did not, because we had a Mr. Everybody Dies himself, Lance Archer, just completely squashed of Mr. Sam Beal, local talent, with the blackout. I don't know. Like,
I've got nothing else to say. You said it all. It was a squash match with Lance Archer. We're good. He needs to find something to do. He needs to find some footing because he doesn't really fit in with the Righteous.
The Righteous, yep.
And he feels like a very much a third wheel there. And like, yeah, he's strong. He's physically imposing. He's a big dude. They need to find something better for him.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens because, like, again, even though it's a different show, they're part of the same umbrella. Lance Archer has been traded to the Don Callis family, so now he's part of that with Kyle Fletcher.
Okay, that's not what I meant when they needed to find something for him to do. I meant something good. Well,
here's the thing. It might not be great for the Don Callis family, but because Jake the Snake Roberts is now managing the new version of LFI with Rush, Jalisco, and the Beast Mortos, I think that Lance Archer has been traded, which means that with LFI, we're going to get Powerhouse Hobbs, which actually has me pretty excited. I love me some Hobbs. But anyways, we move on from this squash match and we cut backstage. And we were alluding to this earlier where we have the infantry. So the entirety of the group, which is Carly Bravo, the Captain Sean Dean, and Miss Trisha Dora herself. And, you know, they were talking, all three of them were talking backstage, and they were saying that something was off. But then we had Shane Taylor Promotions come in and immediately interrupt them to talk some sense into them, which was kind of interesting to see on Shane Taylor's end.
It's like, are we teasing a heel turn for the infantry? Because, I mean, what they're doing clearly isn't working for them. They never got their rematch for the titles.
And, you know, the team that they wanted their rematch against no longer has the titles.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird with all of that. But then the more interesting part for me is that Shane Taylor asked all three of them, you know, when are they going to stop being good soldiers? Which I was like, ooh, okay. Like, you're right. Heel turn. But then it got more interesting because then Shane Taylor turns to Trish and tells her he had not forgotten about their conversation from 2021. And he said that he's a man of his word before leaving. And this got Carly and Sean like very suspicious. They're like, what was that about? And Trish is like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I have no idea what that conversation was. Do you?
Not that I could recall. And I'm trying to go through it and I haven't seen anything. But hey, you know what? If Trish ends up being the factor that gets these boys in line, I'm actually kind of here for it. So now we have the start of something new with the infantry. So hopefully they build upon it because now you got me hooked because now I'm interested in seeing the development for one of our tag teams here in ROH.
I would love that. I would love that. If Trish is the linchpin, that would be even better because they need to do something more with her. She is too talented to be relegated backstage as she is. I feel so bad for every time they have a promo because it's the three of them and they're all in ring gear, but she never gets to wrestle.
And when she does, she's, you know, losing on AEW television. Now, granted, her match against Willow like a week or two ago was fantastic. But let's get Trish some wins, man. Like, make her a staple of the ROH women's division.
I don't know anyone who does that under rope sliding German better than she does.
Come on, like you have me rooting for Trish because what other wrestler can make me scream with joy when I hear Ian Caprice yelling her finisher, the what is it, the Lariat Tubman? I was like, you can't not
It's
have
such a good name too.
it really is, and I was like, how are you not gonna push a girl who has that name as a finisher? Like, come on now. Oh, it makes me frustrated, but hopefully this is the beginning of something great for Trish and for the entirety of the infantry. Jesse, it's back again. I thought it was going to be a one-off, but then I was like, okay, we got like 50 minutes left of the episode. We'll probably see a couple more matches, maybe some squatches, but we'll be fine.
We hope.
And then Ian and Caprice are like, to kind of promote Wrestle Dream happening on Saturday, let's go back with another ROH Rewind match. So this comes from 2006, in which this was a ROH World Heavyweight Championship match, in which we had then champion Mr. Bryan Danielson Bryan, the champion, taking on the challenger and one of my personal favorite strong style Japanese wrestlers outside of Shinsuke Nakamura in Kenta. And this was a 35-minute match. So on the one hand, I actually really enjoyed this match. I love Kenta. I love Bryan Danielson. And like OG ROH just hit different. But my biggest issue with this is this took up 35 minutes where we could have had more promos or actual like current ROH matches. And Bryan Danielson defeated Kenta, retaining the championship. What are we doing with these rewind matches? Like, you Honor Club, like, how do I put this? Right now, Honor Club is promoting the wrong thing. You are promoting this. People should go back to watch these matches when you should be promoting the current product you have to try to get more people to watch this current product of ROH. Like, what?
Every time one of these comes on, it feels like, and I know I said this earlier, but there are a couple different takes on it. First off, it feels like they're saying, hey, look how good we were. Not are, were. Which I don't like because I feel like you're disparaging all the talent and the people that you have to work with now to show stuff that we used to have. Secondly, it feels like they're doing a lifetime infomercial, like remember the 70s, remember the music of the 60s, those kind of things where it's just a long commercial, which if they're going for that route to try and promote more people to buy into Honor Club, subscribe to Honor Club, and you can watch this anytime, that's fine. But let's make that very clear. Like, all it takes, Mike, I said this before, is Caprice or Riccaboni to come on and say, hey, all of you who are subscribed to Honor Club, remember, you have access to this entire archive, including this great match that we're showing here. If you don't have it, please, you can subscribe by following this link and then show the match. But maybe do that after the main event. It's like, that's all for this week's Ring of Honor. If you're interested, you can hang around because we're going to show you, whatever rewind match. Don't put it in the middle of the card.
No. Okay. And I try not to compare promotions because each promotion is ran differently according to the people in charge of it. But I'm going to bring TNA into this conversation a little bit because TNA also, like ROH, has its own subscription model that you can go and watch, the weekly shows and, the pay-per-views for the year. The difference is that TNA, you go through the regular 2-hour show, and before the main event, you get the bumpers, and then you get the previews, and then you get the ad spot for people to sign up to TNA Plus. You don't show an old school match in the middle of your current show to get people to do that, because then you are taking time away from what you could be doing with your current talent that is on the roster. ROH, again.
If I wanted to watch that match, I'll subscribe. I'll go on YouTube. I'll look it up. I'll beg you for something, Mikey, and I'll see it there. But cut this out and give me another women's match. Give me Billy with 15 minutes. Give me a Rachel Ellering match. Give me something else.
Give me more time with the talent that we have. So I'm hoping that once Wrestle Dream is over, this is it for these types of matches. But I have a sneaking suspicion that unfortunately it's going to keep happening. And it makes me super mad.
I dislike how this is the trend now, and if they have it next week, it's like then clearly it's a new trend for them. It's going to be a new staple if they do 3 weeks in a row of it.
Yeah, I hope not. So then, Jesse, after this match, we get into our final match of the evening, which is our main event for this week's ROH episode. which is a ROH Men's World Championship Proving Ground match in which Josh Woods, the premier athletes, would be taking on Mark Briscoe, who is our current champion. I'm going to be honest with you, Jesse. As soon as I saw this being promoted for this week's episode, I immediately knew that there was no way Josh Woods was going to come anywhere close to getting a future championship match against Mark Briscoe. The match itself was great. I like Briscoe. I love Woods. But, like, I knew what was going to happen, so it took me out of it way before the match even started.
I was never convinced that this was going to be a good match. It over-delivered, but my expectations were really, really low.
That's fair.
We had the interruption from the premier athletes and the distraction of it. It's just making Josh Woods look weak.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
It feels to me almost it's a crime of misuse of talent that they're doing to Josh Woods.
It definitely is, and it's very unfortunate, and it's frustrating to say the least. But like we said, Mark Briscoe hits the froggy bow on Josh Woods to pick up the victory. Ian and Caprice did mention, though, that Josh Woods was attacking the arm, so Mark Briscoe's arm is hurt in, storyline angle purposes, which I bet you bottoms to dollars that will be playing a part in the match on this Saturday, because like I mentioned, not only is Atlantis Jr. defending the ROH Men's TV Championship against Brian Cage on 0 Hour, on the main card of Wrestle Dream, Mark Briscoe is defending his title against everyone's favorite. Hi guys, Chris Jericho, from the Learning Tree. Look, Jesse isn't part of the AEW review, but he will understand this when I say this. I sent out the predictions form for the AEW crew to do their predictions, and when this match came up, I picked Mark Briscoe out of spite of Chris Jericho.
Can I just predict no? Like,
can we just
no?
Not?
I don't want this to happen.
No, like, this match shouldn't be on here. We've built it for 2 weeks. The feud literally started because Chris Jericho went there and was talking, ill of Jay Briscoe, who rests in power, but he threw his name into the conversation, which caused Mark Briscoe to beat Chris Jericho's butt on television and accepted his challenge. So I was like, I swear to gosh, and I swear to all the wrestling gods in the world, if Chris Jericho walks out of Tacoma as the ROH champion, I'm going to have an existential crisis.
Well, I mean, maybe we'll see less of him. If he's the Ring of Honor champion, he won't be on Ring of Honor, that's for sure.
Chris Jericho just needs to go away for like 6 months so I can forget it for him for a while and then he can come back.
Let me miss him and give him a good nostalgia run.
Yeah, I'm just like, Chris Jericho is involved in too many of the things right now. I do not need him to be the ROH champion again. We already had that like a year and a half ago, and I hated it.
It was right before I started watching, because I came in and Claudio was still the champion. Or Claudio was the champion.
No, it was 2 years ago when all this happened, because Claudio was the one that beat Chris Jericho to become the champion. So Claudio beat Chris for the title to become champion. Then you came in with Claudio as their champ. Yeah.
Because I had Claudio, then Eddie, then
it's Mark.
I was going to say Jay. I was like, it's not Jay. I was blanking on the other name. But that ends it. And I don't know. Not thrilled with the ending. Not thrilled with the main event. I'm tired of complaining every week. I really am.
I know, but we shall see. And again, even though it's AEW related, I don't have any hope for the ROH championship match because I don't care either way. I prefer Briscoe held on to it, but if Jericho becomes champion, I'm just going to roll my eyes. I'll still probably end up watching this product because somebody has to, but I'm really hoping that Brian Cage pulls out the win and becomes our new television champion, because I would love to see Brian Cage go on a run with this championship.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Like, that is who I'm putting my eggs in this basket. Also, because we are Biconics over here, just last thing before we get our empanada ratings, I'm just watching Brian Cage, and I'm just like, yes, ma'am.
Stop that.
Hey, JBL's not here. So JBL is not here, so somebody has to do it. But Jesse,
no objectification. This is not a meat market.
Fine. But we are finally into the end of our show. We are going to give our empanada rating. So again, I don't know what I was on last night, but I actually enjoyed this episode a lot more than I thought I was going to. It definitely was better than last week, so I'm not going to lie. But I'm going to give this like a solid 6.5 out of 10 empanadas. So that's like a grade of a B- for me. It wasn't absolutely horrible, but you know, it was a lot better than last week. Again, I thought that our opener match with the New Japan Strong Championship was a lot of fun. I love what we're doing with MIT. But what really keeps bringing it down is the lack of story development. And now, hopefully, it's not a trend, but we're getting these rewind matches that, I mean, they're great, but you should be using that time for what you got for the current roster. But that's just me. So I give this a 6.5 this week. Jesse, what do you give this week's ROH?
I'm at a flat 6. I'm a suppose a C+. It was better than last week, not better than 2 weeks ago. I need more. I need less of the past, more of involvement and development in the future. And please give me some women's matches that aren't squash matches, please.
Yeah. So, well, that brings us to the end of this week's ROH recap episode. Let's put our hands in, Jesse, and shake upon it. Fun side note, I love that this is the shake upon it, and then in AEW, the way that we switch hosts is we do the MXM collection ET finger phone home thing, which is hilarious. But that is going to be, yes, exactly. That's literally what it is. Just the tip. But that is going to be it for this week's Ring of Honor review. Thank you so much for tuning in, and for myself, Jesse, and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, but more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you, well, actually, we will catch you this Sunday for the next review and next week for ROH. But until then, sayonara, adios, and as always, Billy Stark's outro, blah. We will see you next week, but until then, ta-ta for now.